All right, thank you. Appreciate it so much. Yeah, I do love the lineup. I'm noticing when one person starts, it kind of leads into the next phase. And with what they were talking about, the awareness of writing it and the power of it. Like when I did do my story, so much came up for me that you can't plan for. You can't actually try to think about until you sit down and you're going through it, and you really realize the capacity that your story can help heal other people. So I would sit down and really had to think about, like, is this something I should share? Is this something that should be out there? And it's so powerful to have someone else's story to relate to. So then when you're going through your own story, you're able to kind of put those things together. So inspiration to me is really just sharing, meeting new people. And where I'm from, that was kind of like the goal. Out west in Arizona, we just love to meet new people. And that was my favorite part because I felt like I could learn just from meeting new people, perspectives, ideas, things that you wouldn't learn from where I'm from. And it gave me a perspective to see that my world wasn't the only world out there. So when I was a child, I was raised in a very unnurturing situation, which is in the book, and it would have led me down a path that people wouldn't say that is the healthiest. But I was able to learn by sharing my story and listening to other people share their stories, or just holding space for other people's traumatic experiences or their knowledge. And it was so important to me to take that with me that I had to find my own process of learning as well because of my situation being so young. It was hard to find a space that I could understand someone else. So it was all these challenges of coming together. I had to figure out, how could I be aware of my situation? How could I understand what I have accepted as my situation? Because I see other people living differently, but I'm capable of the same thing. Um, so in the story, it was like a gradual learning and realizing everything that happened to me in my past was for a reason, and staged itself accordingly to be aware of how life is, who people are, to accept where you're at no matter where you are in your life or what you're doing, and what you have allowed to persuade you that we are human. We're allowed to make mistakes. We're allowed to do whatever it is that we actually do, because that's how we learn our lessons. And it was so important to me to try to share that with people, that the book kind of allowed me to do my own writing, where I could just write out my own stories and face those darknesses that I didn't want to before. Because we can talk about it, but a lot of us have stories that we don't even like to talk to ourselves about. We try to act like it's not there. And it gave me such a power to tell my story, even to myself, to see that it is okay to say it, to own it, to accept it, and to know that, this actually could help someone else get through a story. When I was listening to the last three, it brought up just a couple of my stories, and it was just so amazing to see how other people can help teach you in ways you don't even realize until later. So I wanted to re-alter my perspective of how I took in people's information. And so from my story, to see how other people respond, I came up with what I call like the 5 A's. And what that is you first have the awareness of your situation and what's happened in the past. Secondly, you have to accept, no matter where you're at, your past had happened. It was for a reason, and it was able to tell you or to teach you something, whether you know it now or you'll find out later. What you have allowed yourself to do, and it's okay. So allowing it to happen, and then alter your perspective. Look at it from a different side of view. So when I have a traumatic experience or something in the past, we usually see a way that we could look at that scenario, that without judgment, what was the reason for it to happen? Why did it happen? What can I learn from it? What can I appreciate? Um, Even if it's where you almost die or something really traumatic happens in the family, it reminds us to take time out to connect, to tell stories, to share. And with that, when you alter your perception and you can see what you're supposed to learn, where you're supposed to be, the ascension process is always going up, where we share stories to inspire, to help each other. And that's how we used to learn. We didn't have a lot of things that were written down. We would just share stories. That's how tales of so many, mythology and all that has lasted, just from storytelling, holding space for each other, learning from each other. And in a time like this right now, it's very important, I think, for all of us to know that no matter where you are or what you're doing, you can always learn something new. You can always find a way to advance. Even at your worst times, you are where you're supposed to be. And what we can do is share stories with each other, share experiences, know that you're not alone out there. And for me, it took a long time, especially being from the background I am with being masculine. Even stopping to take the time to like meditate or find my own story was very difficult because I had so much programming around you just bypass the feelings. You bypass that. I don't need to tell nobody my story. I almost don't even need to hear someone else's story because it's my life. It was so inward that I wasn't open to even receive my own lessons. So it took me reconditioning what I learned from somebody else's habit of, talk about it. You don't have to feel or do anything. You just get through life and deal with it. It almost separates us from connecting with people and sharing stories. And in our first years, they're so important of our conditionings. The ones closest to you can condition you to not even want to hear other people's stories. They can make it to where you push people away. You think you're a type of a person that no one wants to be around or see because of what your family is. So it was so important to me in my youth to hear other people's stories, to just go to the other side of town. I mean, walk for as far as I could just so I could meet other people, to hear their stories, because it was also a way for me to escape my story, to learn from somebody else that life could be a different way, a more positive way. And it took a little bit for me to even go back to the age where I could really remember it. But then it kind of just all opened up and came to me. We need to take more time to sit with ourselves and ground into our reality, accept it, understand it, and realize that we can always learn something new from someone else. So with that, I appreciate it. Look forward to the rest of the stories, and I look forward.